Good afternoon. This is Matt Sainholtz of Tobias Financial Advisors. Pleased to welcome you today to our college planning webinar, where we'll be discussing various best practices for not only saving and getting your future student financially ready for college and future education, but also the process of enrollment and actually getting and selecting schools and getting into that school of their choice. We are Tobias Financial Advisors. We are a fee-only comprehensive financial planning firm based in Plantation, Florida. We have about $300 million under investment management, but we also provide comprehensive financial planning, which is what we're doing today here. We're going to be speaking on the college planning aspect of our offering. Who we have with us today, we have myself. I've been with Tobias Financial Advisors going on 12 years now. I also have two young daughters who are ages 2 and 5, so this is going to be pertinent for me as well. It was a good experience for me as we're going through and putting this presentation together to learn a little bit more about the process. Also today, Jeff Rialjo, who's an Associate Financial Advisor with Tobias Financial Advisors. He's been with us for almost a year now, and he is actually studying for his Certified Financial Planner designation, and will be taking the test in July. So he'll be hopefully passing that, but no pressure, Jeff. And also Susan Groden, of Educational Consultant at Academic Options. She'll be covering more of the process from maybe ages freshman to senior high, but she even starts earlier than that in some of her workings with her clients. But she'll be going through the college admissions process, selecting the colleges, and really how to get your student prepared to send off to further their education.
All right. So Matt had covered a lot of the items that we'll be discussing today already, but just to give you an idea of how this presentation is going to flow. So we're going to start, Matt and I are going to start with the financial aspects of preparing for college, some of the best practices, some things to consider. A lot of the financial aspects of preparing for college are situational to your individual circumstance, your needs, and kind of your long-term goals from a cost and a contribution standpoint to college. But we're just going to do a high level, some things to consider, maybe some ideas, or maybe some topics that you may want to discuss with your financial planner for more clarity. And then, as Matt had said, Susan Groden is going to cover the college admissions process, give an overview of some preparations that you can take ahead of starting to apply and enrolling in colleges. And also, I think one of the most valuable pieces of information here will be some of the timelines to expect and some of the broad ranges of months and when you should start thinking about sending out your applications or applying for FAFSA. Just some good targets to have in mind. We're a goals-based firm, and I think that laying out some goals for college planning will be valuable as well. So before we get going, I just want to say that we do have a question box. At any time during the presentation, feel free to write in a question, drop us a question in that box. Depending on where we are in the presentation, if we see one come up, we'll try to answer it on the fly if it's applicable to where we are. But overall, we're going to save most of the question and answer portion of the presentation for the end. So like I said, if anything comes to mind, if you need more clarity on something, feel free to pop it in there. We're going to try to spend about 45 minutes on our presentation and then leave about 15 minutes for Q&A towards the end. So I'm going to pass it over to Matt. He's going to start with an introduction to college costs, and I'll be back with you soon.
Thanks, Jeff. So college is cheap, right? We don't have to plan for it. And not according to the recent statistics. And we all know college is something that we definitely need to think about for the long term, and how we're going to help our students achieve their goal of getting through a productive education so they can further our society and do what they want to do and learn what they want to learn and start a career. So, of course, this is a big expense for many American families. The average cost at a one-year, four-year public college is over $24,000. And when I'm saying cost, I am including tuition and fees, but also kind of an estimate of standard housing and meals and books and supplies and some of the extras involved. It's not just tuition. And so that's at the public level. Of course, private is almost double that on average. According to the College Board, the average cost of a one-year, four-year private college is over $49,000. There are, you probably may know some of them. There are even more expensive than the average, of course, and one ranks up above $60,000 for 1 year of school at a private college. So, obviously this is a very big undertaking to help your student get to this point and cover the cost, the financial aspects of college. We've seen increasing costs over the years. No one, just like kind of the investment world and politics, no one can actually predict what's going to happen in 5 or 10 or 15 years. But looking back over time, college costs have generally increased 3 to 6% on average. I've heard some interesting arguments where, with the use of technology and more virtual schooling, that some of these college costs will actually maybe come in under the historical trend. Generally we don't want to plan for those types of innovations. We want to kind of keep if we plan for the historical trend and we oversave, that's probably a good issue to have. So, but when we're thinking about planning for college, we usually use an inflation number of somewhere around 5 or 6%. One thing as we're going through this, just hearing those numbers, $60,000 for 1 year in a private school. I mean, parents might just shake their head and throw their hands up and just get dismayed right away, or just really focus on one aspect of their financial life, which is getting that child through college. When we're looking at a client's situation, or anyone's situation for that matter, you really got to look at the whole picture and realize that, you kind of have, as the parents, you kind of make sure you have to cover yourselves for retirement. As we say, you can't take a loan out for your retirement and living needs in the future, but you could take a loan out for college. So, as parents, you might want to have that discussion with your spouse or significant other or whoever might be in your life that's helping plan for the child's future, to say, okay, we might want to plan to only cover 1 year of certain level of education, and let's just focus on that, and then we'll figure out the rest when we get there. So take today's more of an informational session, but we want to make sure that we don't get so focused on college specific planning that we lose sight that we're not going to achieve our own goals at the same time. I kind of just mentioned that some of the different payment options. Of course, there's loans, there's scholarships, there's federal aid programs where there's opportunity to do a work study where the student would be able to not only go to school but also have the opportunity to have a part-time job somewhere on campus to help earn some extra income. There's some of us lucky enough out there to have significant gifts from their friends or family. But that's kind of the starting point. Okay, so we think about where we think we might need to develop some of those savings goals, and then where sources of income or sources of buckets of money might come from to help meet our financial goal of paying for college. And then you got to sit back and develop a plan to achieve those goals, what might not be able to be financed through student loans or any other means. Savings plans basics, as I think we all know, the more you save now, the better time value of money, compounding of interest, the better you'll be in the future. So this is just a general chart there that just kind of makes some assumptions about a monthly savings plan and the amount of time you have until your student goes off to college or has higher education expenses. And I'll pass it to Jeff to kind of just go through some of the different types of savings vehicles that are offered.
Great. Thanks, Matt. So one of the more popular savings options that parents, grandparents, family, and friends are considering are college savings 529 plans. So we're going to go in depth. There's actually a prepaid 529 plan or a 529 savings plan. We're going to in slides to follow, we're going to discuss the differences there. But just to give you a brief introduction, so again, these are one of the most popular tax-advantaged options for funding a new student's college needs. And what I mean by tax-advantaged is the contributions grow tax-deferred and withdrawals are tax-free. So you may, depending on your state, there may be income tax incentives for state residents of that particular state plan, but generally the basics are you make a contribution into the plan with money that's already been taxed. So again, depending on your state, you may or may not receive a deduction for those contributions. And then the benefit would be that you're not taxed every year on those earnings. So interest and dividends and capital gains over time, we've seen a lot of studies and we see it day to day in our practice that that taxation of the investment accounts can actually decrease your returns significantly. So the 529 plan allows the contributions to grow tax deferred, so you don't pay the tax now, and actually it's tax free, so you'll never pay any extra income tax on the withdrawals or on any of the growth on the account.
If used for qualified distributions, which Jeff was going to tackle on the next point there.
Right, that's a good point, yeah. So we definitely want to point this out. So this is something to really consider when deciding if a 529 plan is the right savings vehicle for you. And that is the earnings portion that you withdraw for qualified education expenses. And they're listed out here. So tuition, local fees for the college, health fees, athletic fees, lab fees, housing, transportation, special needs, those earnings will qualify. So when I say that the earnings grow tax deferred and withdrawals are tax free, those are withdrawals pertaining to qualified education expenses. So any withdrawals that aren't used for qualified education expenses will be treated as income to you for taking money out. So if the money has grown significantly, you'll end up paying income tax on that growth, and you'll also have to pay a 10% penalty on the withdrawal. So again, when considering a 529 plan, we want to make sure that we have a good idea of expectations and what the expectations will be for college costs, and then design a plan for funding and growth, and really monitoring that every year to make sure that you don't put yourself in a situation where you've overfunded the account, or you might not end up utilizing the account just because you'll end up having to pay the taxes on the withdrawals and then that 10% penalty. And again, we're going to go into, in a couple slides, we're going to go into a couple different 529 options. So briefly here, so with the Coverdell Education Savings Account, it works similarly to the 529. There's a couple key differences. So 529 plans are going to be used for college, whereas a Coverdell Education Savings Account can be used for lower education. So for a private high school or a private middle school, sometimes parents or family friends may consider utilizing this savings vehicle. The tax works similarly as well. The biggest difference here really is the annual contribution limit of $2,000 compared to the 529 plan, which is significantly more. Fundamentally, it would be $14,000 per year that you can contribute to a 529 plan without having to pay a taxable gift. But there are scenarios that allow you to contribute a lot more than that as well. So there's the ability to front load the 529 plan significantly over and consider those gifts over a 5-year time frame. There's gift splitting. There's a lot of different ways to accomplish the funding of a 529 plan. And again, just because it's so broad and there's a lot of different options, I definitely think it's best to consult with your financial planner and consider your individual circumstances. So with U.S. savings bonds, this is probably more of a savings technique that has been phased out over the years with the addition of the 529 plans. So depending on your income tax limits, you may be able to exempt interest from Series EE bonds and Series I bonds for qualified college expenses. And then another option that parents sometimes use is a custodial account. So the adult, you as the parent, the grandparent, family or friend, may act as the custodian to the account, so you can direct the investments, manage the portfolio. The contributions are an irrevocable gift, so once they're in the custodial account, they are considered irrevocable, so there's no string attached to those contributions. Depending on state law, when the child becomes 18 or 21, he or she will gain control of the account.
Do you imagine that? You've saved the entire time and all these years, and this is college money, and then the child turns of age, and they take the money and use it to buy a car. So they got to be careful when you're weighing the UTMA option.
Yeah, that's a great point. And another thing, too, to be careful about, too, is the kiddie tax rules. And a brief overview of the kiddie tax rules are if there are income tax consequences from the account, so interest, dividends, capital gains, if that amount of income is over $2,100, it's going to be taxed at the parent's rate. So we want to make sure that if you are a custodian to a custodial account, that we consider how it could actually affect your personal income tax.
All right, so you've probably heard out there the 529, as Jeff outlined. It's really flexible. It's kind of become the account of choice for many during their saving years for college planning. Well, there's two types of 529 plans, and I'll describe more of the state-sponsored prepaid plan. Here in Florida, we do have a prepaid plan offering by the state of Florida, and what that is more along the lines of where you're mostly giving up the investment risk, where you pay into the prepaid plan, and the state of Florida is then offering to make sure that your tuition payments are paid no matter what the cost of college is at that time. And so one of the pros of using a prepaid plan would be that it's not subject to your typical market risk or investment risk, which is also then the other side of the coin would be that, okay, you've locked your college cost in, but let's say the markets have a period of a very good time frame, a lot of positive results in the market. Well, you've at the expense of locking in the tuition today, so to speak, you've given up on some market return. So there's some risk reward type of characteristics involved in selecting between the prepaid versus the savings plan. One thing to know about the prepaid plan is a lot of the times we'll get a question of, I've saved in Florida to the prepaid plan, but what if my child goes to a different school out of state or even a private school. And the prepaid plan will still give you some benefit to attending those types of schools. It just, of course, wouldn't cover the full cost of a private school out of state. There's some nuances to that, and we could absolutely dive deeper into that question. But it's not all lost. If you sign up for a prepaid plan, it's not that your child is destined to go to a school here in Florida or whatever state you may reside.
Yeah, so the 529 plan, the savings plan, it fundamentally works similarly, and Matt kind of highlighted some of the overall differences, whereas the owner of the account will retain the investment risk on the account. It's not locking in a specific tuition costs in a specific year. It's more of an investment account designed to grow over the long term and utilize for the costs when the kid enters college. So a couple other main differences are you can enroll any time in a 529 savings plan, whereas a state-sponsored prepaid plan is going to have specific enrollment dates. This is going to be determined state by state. So if you do decide to utilize the state-sponsored prepaid plan, we definitely suggest researching your specific state plan and understanding when enrollment is in the plan, and then some kind of nuances that may be a little different state by state. Another main difference too, I think that to enroll in a state-sponsored prepaid plan, you have to be a resident of that particular state, whereas with a 529 savings plan, you can open up a it is still state-sponsored, so that each state has their own 529 savings plan created that has different financial companies that will will custody the assets and allow you to invest the assets. But you can open up a savings plan in any state. Again, there may or may not be tax benefits in your state, so that's something to consider first before choosing the state that you decide to open up the savings plan. But you do have access to all states for the savings plan, and those funds that are accumulated in that savings plan can be used outside of the particular state that it's in. It can be used for any state. So those are some of the main differences. Again, because it's situational, we'll leave it brief there. Some things to consider, and definitely some things to talk to your financial planner about if you're considering starting to save for college. So we're going to wrap up our portion here. Matt's going to cover some of the tax credits and deductions. So
yeah, I'm going to just kind of go over this briefly because this is really based upon your individual tax situation. This would just be an idea to consider. This slide here and this information here is more about when your child is actually enrolled and you're paying college tuition, maybe on behalf of your child, or maybe your child's paying themselves and filing separately. Again, everything's situation is different. What we had talked about previously was the tax deductions of contributions at the state level. That's the accumulation phase of college savings. These opportunity credits and different credits offered by the federal government really are for when you're actually making payments to a higher educational institution. So, there's definitely something to be aware of and to consult your tax advisor when your child is enrolled and attending school.
And definitely important to keep, if you're in that phase where you're paying for college, really no matter what your income is, I mean, even if you are, by far exceeding the modified adjusted gross income limits, it's always good to kind of keep good records of payments that you make to college education costs, and then, again, bring those to your tax advisor and allow them to walk you through some of the options you may have, and then if not, either way, you have a good record of the cost that you've spent. So now we're going to turn it over to Susan. I think you guys are going to be really impressed with her deep knowledge of the college admission process. So Susan, I will let you take it from here.
Thank you, Jeff. I would like to thank Tobias Financial Advisors for including me in this webinar today. I just learned quite a bit. I did not know about college savings plans. As you can see from this screen, I began my career in 1992 as a college advisor. I worked at a few high schools, and for many years now, I have been an independent educational consultant at Academic Options in Broward. I know our audience has students ranging from young children to high school age, so I tried to prepare slides to be helpful for all ages. The first couple of slides have general information for all, then the last ones are focused more on high school students. Also, the slides have a lot of information, and this will be available for you after the webinar, so I will touch on some aspects, not everything. Preparing for college. The most important thing I want you to take away from this today is don't stress. There's too much stress and worry in this field. Every year I watch many students go off to colleges they are happy to attend, and so many of these students say they wish they hadn't stressed so much through the process. It just wasn't necessary. Approximately 80% of the colleges in the U.S. accept a large number of the students who apply. It's a very small number of colleges that are very selective. And every year our students go off to colleges they are very happy with. So try to keep this in mind as you go through the process. Early prep. The earlier students begin to work hard on their schoolwork and spend time reading, the more prepared they will be for high school, college, and future careers. School courses and grades are the most important part of the process. This will make the difference in students being accepted to more colleges. So just keep that in mind. PSAT, SAT, ACT tests, these are a part of the process, but if a student is a poor test taker, there are many test optional colleges these days. Students will take the PSAT in 9th, 10th, 11th grades, depending on what's offered at their high school, and then take the SAT and/or ACT in 11th and 12th grade, which are the tests the colleges require. However, a lot of colleges have chosen not to use these tests in the college application process. They realize that some students don't test well, and these tests are not necessarily indicative of student success in college. So some of the well-known test optional colleges, there is quite a long list, but some of the well-known test optional colleges include American University, Trinity, Wesleyan, George Washington University, Drexel, and Temple Universities. Extracurricular involvement. Again, colleges like to see that students are involved in something. They're building a college community, and they want students who are involved. However, they would like to see a strong level of commitment to a few activities rather than a long laundry list of many activities without much commitment to any of them. Some timelines, things that you can think about. Elementary and middle school, again, their best effort in school matters. If students can move up to a more challenging level, can move from, if they have an A in a regular class and can move up to an honors class, that's very helpful. And just a sideline, a B in an honors class is actually better than an A in a regular class, because the colleges know the students have challenged themselves. Again, read. I can't stress this enough, how important reading is and what a difference it will make in the future. Anything a young person enjoys reading will be helpful. Additionally, practicing writing and using technology will help them a lot in the future. Throughout 9th to 12th grades, again, challenging courses and the standardized tests. Get involved in activities, And then think about what you do over the summer. Colleges ask on applications how students have spent their summers, so try to do something meaningful as well as relaxing. Careers. Students don't and families don't think about this a lot, but the more students pay attention to careers, just the people they see in their daily lives, the more prepared they will be to make choices about college majors. That being said, it's predicted that there will be college majors in the next few years that we haven't even heard of yet as technology evolves.
That's happening quick.
Okay, 11th grade, this is when you get really serious about the college admission process. The students should pay close attention to all college information at the high school, read college information on the high school website, listen to announcements, and get to know their counselor or college advisor. They will be an important part of the college application process. And students will start to take the SAT and ACT in 11th grade. As students begin to take those tests, to reduce the stress in the process, I recommend that they keep the scores to themselves. They really are no one's business, and sharing them can create really unnecessary stress throughout this whole process. And then the summer, students can actually begin applications now throughout the spring of 11th grade, but the summer before 12th grade is when they can really get busy with them. Throughout the summer, the fall, the students will be completing applications, and then in the spring have all of their acceptances, and then by May 1st decide which college to attend. With a lot of attention to detail, it really can be a not too stressful process. The one thing I want to point out with the 12th grade is keep up your grades. All college acceptances are contingent on students' final senior grades. We see colleges rescind offers of admissions when students' grades drop below what the colleges have seen through 11th grade and through the fall of their senior year. So it's, as much as they think senior year can be a chill year, it really can't be.
How does that work logistically? Do the students actually send their quarterly grade into the school that they are accepted, or
a lot of colleges will a lot of colleges look at grades through 11th grade. Some colleges ask for fall first semester grades, but every single college asks for a final transcript.
Okay.
And every college looks at that final transcript as the student is preparing to attend the college.
Yeah.
And I have seen over the years just a lot of colleges rescind offers of admission, including University of Florida, Florida State University. So it's pretty serious. You don't want to.
It's good to build momentum too going into school, right? So keeping those.
Working hard.
Yeah,
the colleges want to see that you're not only coming, but that you will work hard there and graduate. So some criteria for students to think about while considering colleges. First of all, there is a college that's right for each individual student. Not just name brand colleges, not the best sports teams or high in any rankings, but a place the student will thrive and be successful. So I recommend ignore the rankings and the hype and do some research to find colleges where your student will thrive. And again, sometimes it's best not to discuss college choices with too many people. I have seen very well-meaning friends and families discourage a student from a college they really liked. Admissions requirements, this information is available on the college websites. What they are, who they have accepted the last year, the 50 percentile of GPAs and test scores. So you can easily find that information. However, if the student is lower than what you see on the website, be aware that it may be a reach school for them, but if they really want to apply, go for it. I've seen too many surprises over the years to ever tell a student they will not be accepted to a college. Location, specific states where the student would like to go to college, I'd like to point out that parents really need to be honest from the beginning about how far away they will allow a student to go. You don't want disappointment later when they've been accepted to a college in Oregon and you realize there's no way I'm sending you there. So be honest with your students. And again, okay, enrollment. Enrollment is a big thing. Some students are just fine with huge colleges, and then some need a smaller college. One thing to point out is at many of our large state universities throughout the U.S., they have honors programs which can create a smaller environment within the large university. So you can have both options, smaller classes within a larger university. Cost. This is another area where parents need to be realistic with the students about how much they can afford. And unless you are sure they will receive merit-based aid, if you cannot afford a $60,000 college, be honest with them before they are accepted to some of those colleges. The application process. This is current information for rising seniors. If your children are younger, a lot will change in the years to come. Types of college applications. The most popular right now is the Common Application. It started in 1975 with 15 colleges as members, and now over 700 colleges use it, including public, private, and international colleges. Students fill out the application once, and then they can send it to multiple colleges. They do need to fill out information specific for each college as well on the Common App. It's open now for seniors to begin to complete. It will close on July 24th for a week, but all the students' information will be saved. The Coalition application is new. This is its second year, and it has seen some growing pains, but it's used exclusively by University of Florida, so a lot of our students are familiar with it. And then lots of colleges still have their own application on their website. Most of the state universities in Florida still do, as well as other states. Listed below are different elements of the college application. Every college requires high school courses and grades. Most require test scores, with the exception of the colleges which are test optional. Some require essays, not all. Some require that the students tell them about their activities and resume, and some require letters of recommendation, not all. So just keep that in mind. Look at the websites and see what each college requires. College interviews are offered by some colleges. At this point, I don't know any colleges that require them anymore. And then different types of admission plans, rolling, regular, early action. The one that I really want to point out is early decision and early decision 2. This is binding. A student applies in November and they hear their decision early in December, and if they are accepted, they are required to go to that college. The student, the parent, and the high school counselor sign a contract. Too many seniors aren't sure about this commitment by November in their senior year, so we discourage this a lot. However, currently quite a few colleges accept a large percentage of their freshman class early decision. So it's worth a look if you really like a college.
You mark that on your application that you want early decision?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and once on the Common Application, once you mark it, the contract comes up that you must sign, and there's a link for your parents and your counselor to sign it. So it's one of the most binding commitments in this country.
Wow.
The hardest to get out of.
Wow, interesting.
Is there a financial burden if you attempt to get out? Do they say you're going to owe a year's tuition, or is that not really how
No,
it works?
it's more like there's discussion between the colleges.
Okay.
So then when you want to go somewhere else, it could hurt you.
A red flag on your future application.
Right.
Future
Okay. Interesting.
So pretty serious. Types of acceptances are pretty clear. The one that I would like to point out is deferred, because that happens a lot. And what what's happening is the college is just putting you on hold. So it's not bad. They're just waiting to see new test scores, maybe first semester grades, or who else is applying to the college. And many students who are deferred are later accepted. And also spring admit is a really strange thing that has popped up a lot in the last few years, where a student applies for fall and they are accepted for January for the spring term. The college is just taking care of themselves. They will have students leave after fall semester, so they're filling up their spaces for spring. If a student really likes a college, and I've had quite a few students who wanted to do this, they love the college, so they said, okay, I'll go in spring. So then they either took courses at a community college or did volunteer work or worked or traveled throughout the fall and then successfully engaged in the college starting in January. Those are just a couple that I thought I would point out. And then additional sources for paying for college in addition to your 529 and other college savings plans. Need-based aid, colleges will look at your income, your savings, number of people in your family, number of people in college, and the parent's age, and compute your estimated family contribution. If this amount is less than the cost of the college, you could be eligible for some need-based aid, which is grants, merit aid, which is grants, work study, and student loans. So if you want to just have a look at, what would my EFC be? This is a website where you can do an estimate. And then I have listed different types of need-based aid applications you will fill out. Merit-based aid. This is based on something the students do well, either academic, athletic, visual, or performing arts, and it's not tied to need-based aid. So regardless of your family income, a lot of students require merit-based aid. The largest amount is individual college scholarships. I had quite a few students this year who received over $30,000 in merit-based aid, just a scholarship for a specific college. But there's no guarantee. The next one, Florida Bright Futures Scholarship Program. These are funded by the Florida Lottery, and they're rewarded to Florida high school graduates for high academic achievement. The great thing about Florida Bright Futures is every student who's eligible will receive it. However, when it started, it gave students full tuition at the public state universities. Now it's half. So it's a good chunk of money if the student is eligible, but it's not a lot for paying for college.
So they cut the financial incentives down. Do they also make the academic requirements higher as well?
Yes.
Of course.
And then there are many, many, many private organization scholarships. They aren't a lot. A lot of them are $500, $1,000. So rather than spending a lot of time completing those applications, we really encourage students to get good grades so that they will be eligible for college merit-based aid. And you hear myths that there is a lot of untouched scholarship money out there. Actually, all of that money that isn't touched is usually very restrictive, such as a corporation gives money to their employees' children for college, and that year they don't have any employees who have high school seniors. So that myth, it's really a myth. It's really not true that there's a lot of money that goes untouched. And in closing, just a few things to remember. There's a college for every student. The college process is complicated but not difficult. Just follow the steps and plan ahead and try your best to enjoy this process as a family. Thank you.
Yeah, looking back at that whole process, it was stressful, but it was also a fun time to work together and travel around to different schools and see different places and have conversations about your future, which can really be, in hindsight, when you eliminate the stress component of it, can be really constructive. It can be a way to bring people together a lot of the times.
Right.
All right, so thank you, Susan. If you want to get in touch with Susan, this is her contact information here. She's really great. We've enjoyed working with her. She's a wealth of knowledge when it comes to educational consulting and, all of the, diverse areas of college planning and preparation that's going to come with a student in high school and even before high school. So feel free to reach out to Susan at any time. Again, Susan, thank you for joining us. So we're gonna, before we wrap it up here, we want to see if there's any questions that you had asked. So we have a couple questions. It looks like the first one, I think, Susan, this one would be a good one for you to tackle. So the question says, if schools have counselors, why do families choose to use private counselors?
Great question. And when I worked in a high school, I wasn't really sure of the answer of that question, although I did not have time for all of my students. When I went into private practice, I saw why it's very helpful for many families. At a high school, I worked at large public high schools for years, and I could meet with the seniors. I could rarely meet with the juniors, sophomores, and freshmen, having 700, 800 seniors. So it's just a matter of time. Then I went to North Broward Prep, and my first year I only had 45 students, which was wonderful. However, the students are in class. They have a little bit of time during lunch. They have a little bit of time before school and after school if they will stay, and there's just not enough time in their school day to meet with them very much. When I started doing private counseling, there's plenty of time. We're available after school, throughout the evening, some weekends, and there's plenty of time to meet with them and really help them with every aspect of the college application process, the college admissions process, starting even in 9th or 10th grade. That being said, families can do this on their own. They don't have to have an independent counselor, and many families do.
One question that came to mind during your presentation, Susan, was about the Florida Bright Futures. We have a lot of Florida attendees here today on our call. At what point of the academic career do the requirements kick in? Is that just look at senior year grades, or
no,
all the way back to
it's
second grade?
No, it's high school.
High school.
It's 9th through 12th, and it's pretty interesting when they are calculating the GPA for the Florida Bright Futures. They have a certain number of courses that they take into account. For example, I believe it's still 3 science courses. They look at the GPA for 3 science courses. So if the students have taken 4 or 5, they take the best grades out of those 5. So the students have a lot of opportunity to raise their GPA. It does go from 9th through 12th, and the students can begin to apply currently it's December of their senior year, and they will continue to compute the grades through the end of the senior year, and they will continue to look at test scores through the end of the senior year. One thing I tell parents, there is a lower level. Florida Bright Futures has 2 levels. If the student is eligible for the lower level, but they are 20 points away on the SAT or the comparable amount on the ACT to qualify for the higher level, if it was my student, they would be taking that test every single time it's offered to raise that score because of the thousands of dollars you're looking at in the difference.
Wow, the added incentive.
Yeah. It seems like it's a good idea to know the criteria, even if your student maybe in 9th or 10th grade, just to know and kind of follow if there are specific courses. Maybe a student may have had a bad semester in a specific course. You may choose to use your elective classes to take specific courses in order to boost up, the top 3 grades in that category.
Yes, and it's all available on the Florida Bright Futures website.
All right. Well, one question we get often as well, I've done a great job saving for my family, but what happens if I assume I only have an only child, what happens if my child does not go to college? Or maybe they get a great scholarship for some reason. One thing about the 529 plans that is a nice benefit is they offer a lot of flexibility. You are able to, in certain cases, change the beneficiary of that 529 college savings plan. You could even change it to yourself as the owner. If you were going to go back to school later in life, you could change it to maybe a first cousin. There are different ways to, instead of taking the money out of a 529 savings plan and taking a tax hit, there might be a way to kind of shift that college savings account to maybe a future generation, maybe even a future grandson or grandchild. So there are flexibility options involved in the 529 savings account process.
That's a good point. It's probably not hard to find someone that's going to need some help with college costs. It's definitely very popular. Another question we have here pertaining to funding is, can college costs be paid using a combination of 529 withdrawals and student loans? So the answer to that is yes. A lot of parents, family and friends choose to kind of subsidize the costs of college, maybe decrease the financial burden on the student, but still have the student take out student loans in order to kind of pay for some of those costs by him or herself. So the combination of 529 withdrawals and student loans is very common. If you don't have a 529 account set up and your student is headed to college, payments made from personal assets and accompanied with student loans, also very common. You'll want to be aware, and I'm not going to dive too deep into the weeds, but with some of the tax credits and deductions that you may or may not be eligible for, there are specific rules designed against double dipping there. So if you have qualified education expense withdrawals from a 529 plan, even if you do qualify for a specific credit or deduction, that won't be allowed. That means you're taking two potential tax benefits. So again, that's something you'll want to talk to your financial planner about is, when withdrawals make sense, what kind of withdrawals make sense, depending on if you are eligible for a potential tax credit or deduction. All right. Oh, one more here. So the question is, does it make sense to open both a 529 savings account as well as a 529 prepaid account?
Yes, I've seen that. We've seen that done in the past, and there might be a specific reason for that. So sometimes there might be a prepaid. Some of the prepaid, there's options where you can do tuition only, and then maybe someone might have maybe they don't fund the prepaid plan for the room and board piece of it. So there's different, depending on what you select in the prepaid and what's covered or not. You might want to pair that with the 529 more of the investment plan. Additionally, the 529 prepaid plan wouldn't necessarily cover the cost of a computer, which was a recent addition by the federal government as a qualified educational expense for 529 investment plans, would cover some of the technology costs. And I've not seen in my experience any sort of prepaid plan that would cover technology piece. So that is a viable strategy.
And something, I guess, on that note, too, is so gifts. So if you have a prepaid plan, that's a tongue twister, huh? If you have a prepaid plan and a savings plan for the same beneficiary, and you make contributions to those plans, those gifts are going to be in aggregate for gift taxing purposes. So it's not, you can't make a maximum gift to the savings plan and then a maximum gift in terms of your personal exemption for the year into the prepaid plan. Those gifts are going to be looked at in aggregate, actually with all other gifts, even gifts outside of college savings plans. So this next question is, can you open a 529 prepaid plan, prepaid account before a child is born for a future child? So I guess the answer to that is sort of. The plan, a 529 plan requires a Social Security number for a beneficiary. So because the plans have flexibility in terms of transferring or changing the beneficiaries on the account, theoretically you could open up a 529 plan with a different named beneficiary. Maybe you have a family member that you name as the beneficiary, and then you are the owner of the account, which means you can change the beneficiary at the time when your child is born, has established a Social Security number. But I guess on that note, so the answer is yes, you can do that.
You want to check with the state-specific rules and regulations to that particular state's plan as well. So I think there might be a way to get around that and do that. I've never seen it done in my experience, but it could be a possibility.
Yeah, and I think so typically when you are maybe younger, thinking about starting to have children, when the child is born, so let's just use 18 years for financial planning purposes, I think that is an ample time window to really start creating some sort of savings plan and putting together a real kind of plan or a kind of a glide path of how much are we going to save, where are we going to save. And then before your child is born, you can focus on yourself, like we covered in the presentation earlier. Depending on your individual circumstance, you may save some of the extra money you have in a retirement account. Maybe you're saving up for a down payment in a home. Everyone has his or her personal goals. So you can do it, but I think you can also utilize that time to your advantage and maybe prepare for some of your other goals and work towards some of your other goals.
Great point, Jeff. Great point. Well, with that, we would like to thank everybody for attending our college planning webinar. And if you do have any additional questions, please give us an email or ping us one way or another. We'd be happy to speak with you about your personal situation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.